They say funerals bring families together, but ours felt more like a silent war in polished shoes. I hadn't seen my brother Julian in nearly 6 years, not since the day he walked out of our father's lawyer's office with everything, every account, every key, every asset. I didn't cry that day. I didn't yell. I just nodded, shook hands, and walked out with nothing but a battered tote bag and a line in the will that read, "To my daughter, Isabel, I leave my love and fond memories." Memories don't pay rent. Love doesn't cover therapy bills. Julian stood at the front of the chapel that rainy Tuesday, tall, tailored, and self-assured, giving a eulogy that made our father sound like a saint. The same father who used to say things like, "Don't waste your time with art, Belle, marry well or work hard, but don't expect a safety net." Julian had always been the safety net. I was the unexpected child from Dad's second marriage, the quiet daughter who never quite fit into the mold of corporate ambition or country club charm. Julian, on the other hand, was everything our father could boast about at business lunches. Yale-educated, investment-savvy, tall with that commanding voice that made people lean in and listen. When Dad died, Julian didn't even call me. I heard from the family lawyer, a man who sounded exhausted as he explained the will's terms. "Your brother is the sole inheritor of the Whitmore estate. I'm sorry, Isabel, I really am." I told him not to be. I'd already started planning. By the time the funeral ended, people milled around the estate's marble-floored foyer, sipping Pinot Noir and nibbling imported cheese. I stayed back, watching. Julian pretended not to notice me, though his fiancée, Leah, all blonde polish and polite smiles, kept sneaking glances. She looked like the type who thought struggle was when the barista spelled her name wrong. Eventually, Julian cornered me near the library. "Didn't expect you to show," he said, like he hadn't stolen our father's legacy and tossed me scraps. "Neither did I," replied, sipping water and smiling coolly. "But I wanted to see the house one last time, before you tear it down and replace it with a smart condo development or whatever soulless thing you do now." He smirked. "Still bitter, Belle?" "No," I said, setting my glass down. "I'm calculating." He blinked at that, but didn't reply. Julian was always sharp, but he never knew when a knife was already at his throat. What he didn't know, and what no one in that room knew, was that 2 years before Dad died, I'd started a business. Quietly, patiently, with the help of an anonymous backer who believed in my vision of a socially driven tech incubator for underrepresented founders. It wasn't flashy, and it certainly didn't carry the Whitmore name, but it grew. By the time Julian was cashing inheritance checks, I was acquiring shell companies and rebranding them under a collective my team had dubbed Reverie. Cute name, innocuous, but deadly in its execution. And here's the kicker. Julian's real estate firm, the one he inherited and was so proud of, it was built on leveraged assets tied to 3 aging properties. Guess who acquired the bank that held those debts? Me. It took 18 months, 3 shell LLCs, and a very strategic hire from Julian's own boardroom. But eventually, Reverie became the quiet puppeteer of his empire. He had no idea. Not yet. A few weeks after the funeral, I received an invitation to Julian and Leah's engagement party. It wasn't addressed to me directly, it went to my mother's house. I suspect it was Leah's doing. She wanted to be inclusive. Sweet, naive girl. I RSVP'd yes. I showed up in a sleek black dress, no +1, hair tied back, minimal makeup. I didn't need glamour. I brought silence and certainty. The party was held in one of Julian's prized properties, a penthouse overlooking the city skyline. Everything gleamed. Polished stone, brushed gold, laughter that echoed too loud. I moved through the room like smoke, unnoticed, unbothered, until I wasn't. I was standing near a window, admiring the view, when an older man with a whiskey tumbler approached me. "You're Julian's sister, aren't you? Isabel?" "Yes," I said, turning. He looked familiar. "Stephen Rains," he offered. "Commercial banking. I helped finance Julian's last development deal." My smile didn't reach my eyes. "Ah, so you're the one he owes." He chuckled, oblivious. "He's a sharp one, your brother. Ambitious. That last loan was risky, but he made it work." "Has he?" I asked, swirling the ice in my glass. "Has he really?" That was when I saw it. Over Stephen's shoulder, Julian standing across the room, frozen mid-laugh, eyes locked on me. He started walking over, fast. "What are you doing here?" he hissed under his breath when he reached me. I tilted my head, enjoying the view, networking. His jaw clenched. "Don't cause a scene." "I don't need to," I replied, lowering my voice. "You've already built the stage." He stared at me for a beat too long, then turned and walked away. Not back to his guests, but to his office. I knew he'd be calling his assistant, his board, his banking contacts. And I knew what they'd tell him. That Reverie had bought out the loans. That the terms were changing. That the interest was about to balloon. That a small oversight in his tax filings had triggered a quiet audit, one initiated through a whistleblower tip from a Reverie intern planted in his office 8 months ago. A domino line had been stacked carefully, and tonight, I was watching it fall. I didn't stay much longer. As I left, Leah stopped, looked at her for a long moment. She was sincere, kind even, but blind. "You should ask Julian what he did with his inheritance," I said softly. "And then ask yourself why none of it had my name on it." She looked confused. I walked away before she could respond. The next morning, I received a frantic call from Julian. "You planned this?" "Yes." "You've ruined me." "No," I corrected. "I gave you enough rope. You hung yourself." There was a long silence on the other end. "I'm still your brother," he said, quieter now. "We're family." "Funny," I replied. "You didn't remember that in the lawyer's office." "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a decision. Now live with it." I hung up. A week later, Reverie officially assumed control of his firm's 3 largest properties, not through litigation, through forfeiture. He'd defaulted under the new terms. It was clean, clinical. No drama, just red ink and reality. Leah left him 2 months later, moved to Paris, became a lifestyle influencer with a poetry podcast. Good for her. Julian, from what I hear, moved into a modest condo outside the city. He consults now. Small clients, local stuff, tries to keep a low profile. As for me, I expanded Reverie, took the profits from the acquisitions, and opened a foundation in my father's name, Whitmore Futures. Ironic, maybe. But legacy is often about control, not sentiment. The foundation funds scholarships for girls like I once was. Quiet, underestimated, creative. Girls told to marry rich or stay small. Girls who now had a hand pulling them up. And I made one more move. I bought the Whitmore family estate. Julian had to sell it to cover debts. He listed it under a shell firm. I bought it under another. When he found out, he sent an email. It simply said, "Why?" I didn't reply. Instead, I had the dining room, our father's pride, converted into an art studio. Light flooded the space through the tall windows, paints, canvases, silence. Some victories don't come with applause. Some come with peace.